What's up guys, idiotMOUSE here, and welcome to my first impression of Realm Royale patch 14, Steel and Shadow. Got about 13 hours of gameplay so far on the patch. Really excited to share what I've learned and how I feel about everything. I'm getting asked a lot, what are your thoughts, what do you think about chicken speed, what do you think about the movement cooldown nerfs? So I'm just going to scroll through the patch notes and kind of go through everything and give my thoughts as well as a little bit of a brief overview. I'm not going to talk too much about the battle pass or the skins or any of the cosmetic stuff. It's all pretty cool. A little disappointed in the hunter skin. Unfortunately, it looks a little bit silly to me, but the other ones that look freaking awesome, the ninja mage, the pirate warrior, they all look really cool. But let's just dive right in and talk more about the gameplay that has changed and the new features that have been added to the game. The much awaited and anticipated mastery system, also known as the talent tree, has been added to the game, and I must say I'm really happy with it. It's really cool. There's a lot of in-depth decision making involved with it. I'm going to give you a brief overview and then kind of tell you my concerns and what I love about it. To get to the talent tree, you have to go to the armory. You pick which class you want to look at. I'm going to go with Hunter. And then you click on loadout up here, and it's going to bring you to this page, and it looks a little confusing at first, but the quick summary of it is every class has basically these 4 neutral talents on the side, these 3 forge talents in the middle, and then 3 talents pertaining specifically to that one class. So these generic neutral talents are healing, shards, basically things that impact your shards, chicken, so the stuff that impacts your chicken, and speed, like movement speed or ADS speed. Now every class has these same 4 generic categories, and as you level up each specific class, you can unlock more and more talents. There's going to be 4 talents inside of each category here. These 3 bottom ones in the middle here, every class has these as well, but they are specific to your class's abilities and weapons. And this is one of the most exciting things about the talent tree, is it's a huge reduction on RNG in the forge. If you look through the talents, you'll see that you can guarantee what your first forge is going to be for your ability, as well as your weapon. If you go to the movement ability section, you can even, instead of guaranteeing a movement ability, you can just guarantee that it's a legendary. So instead of going to the forge and, praying you get a stone staff and ending it with the bolt staff, you actually kind of can forge your destiny and have total control over what you're going to forge first. That's a huge addition to the game that we have been, asking for months. We're tired of the RNG, we're tired of, not getting the weapons we want. Assassins want to use the sniper, that's, the class flavor, and they're not getting it, so it's very frustrating. This completely solves that issue. So just remember, these 7 bottom talents are kind of available on every class. Where it gets really juicy is in these top 3. And these top 3 are all going to pertain to your specific class. So for example, on Hunter, I can reduce the cooldown of everything. I can increase the damage of my blast arrow. I can add these special effects to my different abilities. In the weapons category, you kind of specialize in a specific weapon. So the Arbalest is now the heavy crossbow, but you can have kind of a generic base talent that buffs everything, or you can really customize your character to focus on one specific weapon with these benefits. And then lastly, you have a speed category, which is things like things that pertain to your movement ability. Mage, for example, has one that increases the speed of their soar. So you need to remember that all of these talents and stuff in the mastery feature, these all replace perks. So remember that it may seem like a class is very overpowered because you're used to seeing the damage that did last patch, but those bonus damages are all gone. They're all in here now. So this is not stacking on top of the previous perks. A common question I'm getting is, isn't this kind of a grind to win feature? Like, isn't somebody that's playing more hours going to have a major advantage over a player that's, on day 1? And to me, I don't think so at all. If you go in and you look at these basic talents that you start with before you level up, they're actually extremely strong, and they might even be optimal over the later game talents. So the way I'm seeing it is, it's not so much a grind to have an advantage or a grind to win system. It's more of just a progression system that gives you more options as you go on, but it's not necessarily better options. The base talents are all really strong. There are some very well designed talents. For example, in Warrior, I think the Game Grover is a really cool one. Throwing axes will deal up to 40% increased damage over range. I like abilities that reward skillful play, but also have kind of a drawback to it, right? You're giving up the guaranteed 20% for a chance at 40% if you have better aim with your axe at long range. So I think that's a really well designed talent. The talent tree is full of things like that. Assassin has a cool one. If you use Hidden or Blink, it reduces the cooldown of your basic ability by 5 seconds. So overall, I'm really enjoying the talent tree. I think there's some cool decision making to be made, more strategy. It means there's more strategy outside of the game rather than inside of the game, but it's fun. I do have some concerns. Everyone, when the patch first launched, was very worried about the chicken speed rune, or a talent, and rightfully so, because it was bugged. It was at 25% faster, and it stacked with the chicken speed rune, and chickens were pretty much uncatchable. Luckily, Hi-Rez has actually already hotfixed and patched this overnight, less than 24 hours, and this has been reduced to 15%. It's not going to display on here until the next patch, but it is active in-game as 15% faster, and they have also nerfed the chicken speed rune, so chickens are now more manageable. So major props to the development team. It's really cool that they were able to hotfix this right away. Additionally, Dry Bear has tweeted out that they are working on some other nerfs and adjustments, so it does seem like, 2019, fresh start, they're working on adjusting things much quicker. But overall, really enjoying the talent tree. The only other thing I'm somewhat concerned about in terms of talents is in the Hunter and Assassin weapons category, is this one called Toxicology, which says Venom Pistols will increase all damage a target takes by 30% for 3 seconds. And then in the Hunter category, it is Pincushion. Crossbows will increase all damage a target takes by 30% for 3 seconds as well. So the way it works, there's no cooldown in between. You can constantly put that debuff on somebody. And according to the text, they should be taking 30% extra damage from everybody, not just the crossbow. It's from fire bombs, from blast arrows, from anyone shooting them. And so it doesn't seem like a huge jump from Hunter's arsenal here. It's only a 10% increase. However, in squads, it could be really devastating. Now, I haven't personally tested it yet. There is a squad tournament today I'm going to be participating in. I am going to be using this, and our assassin is going to be using the Venom Pistol talent. So we are going to see if it stacks, we're going to see how oppressive it is. But on first glance, it does look extremely strong, and I'm a little worried about it. But again, let's let it sit, let's test it out, and see how it goes. Aside from that, everything else seems pretty cool. Nothing stood out to me as insanely strong in terms of the talents. Everything seems pretty balanced. This seems a little bit scary. Swords deal 30% increased damage and grant you 25% increased movement speed, but a lot of fun stuff in here. Really happy with the talent tree, and I think it creates a very good foundation in a base game. Remember, there's only 4 talents in these categories, so as the seasons change, they can add more talents, they can remove some and add some, they can balance some, they can increase the levels and add more up here. There's plenty of stuff to work with to keep the game from getting stale. But overall, really happy with the talent tree. Turned out just how I would expect it, and amazing. It is lacking in armor regen, unfortunately. It's one thing I was hoping for, but again, it's the first iteration of it. Very happy with it. Let's look at the patch notes and move on down to some gameplay. Everyone's 2 favorite guns, the assault rifle and SMG, have been added back to the game. Don't be alarmed, it's okay. They aren't that strong. They're actually pretty well balanced for what they do. Their hit scan, I think they were probably added to the game to kind of cater to the console player base a little bit more. Automatic weapons and hit scan, really benefits casual players that may not have the best aim or are playing on controller and really need to be able to just spam something to get some damage out there. My only 2 complaints about these weapons: one, the hit markers and the sound effect when you're getting shot by these is actually really scary. It feels like you're getting hit by a Venom Pistol. You feel like you're taking a lot more damage than you actually are, but then you look down at your health bar and you're pleasantly surprised, like, whoa, I'm still actually in decent shape here. So I do think they need to tone the sound effects down a little bit. Secondly, you know, anytime you have hit scan weapons that are automatic in game, it's a little iffy when you don't have that much armor in the game. The way I'm seeing it right now is that you spend the first 5-6 minutes of the game clearing out a zone, forging, hoping you can get up to 3000 HP with armor, right? And now that you've used all your resources to get there, you leave the zone, and little Timmy on his Xbox or a random bot is just spraying you down from across the map with their hit scan automatic weapon and taking off all the armor you just spent the first 6 minutes of the game looking for. So I do think if you're going to have hit scan automatic weapons like this in the game that really don't take too much aim, there does need to be some sort of armor regen incorporated into the talent tree, or potion chests need to, you know, revive themselves every couple of minutes, or there needs to be more armor potions, something along the lines to kind of counteract these hit scan automatic weapons. But overall, they seem pretty balanced. I'm fine with them. Again, it feels bad to get shot by them, but it's not as bad as it actually seems, unless they headshot you, you know, 35 times, but that's unlikely. Moving on to following weapons will no longer drop at common or rare rarities. So these are basically the class weapons: bolt staff, the heirloom rifle, the longbow, and the longsword. I like this change. I thought that assassin and hunter really had a good early game advantage because finding their longbow or rifle in the common rarity was extremely strong, versus mage finding a bolt staff and warrior finding a longsword. These are only going to be able to be found at purple and legendary now. No complaints here. Makes the early game more focused on those unusual weapons that you don't normally use in the late game, which is interesting. You get more interesting fights. You know, you have SMG versus revolver. You have more basic and common weapons. It makes for a more interesting early game. So no complaints here. Moving on down to some weapon changes here. These are some of the things that people are a little concerned about. The slug rifle, longbow, throwing axe, venom pistol, and the plasma launcher have all had damage reduction, but refire rate increase. And what that means is basically the weapons fire faster. For the longbow, that means you can draw back the bow quicker, and the throwing axe gets tossed faster. So if you do the math, it actually is a DPS increase, I believe, on every single one of the weapons. But again, remember, perks aren't fully existent like they used to be, so they may not be as oppressive. With that being said, the weapons are really fun to use. Really enjoying the slug shooting kind of quicker. The longbow actually feels like you're Legolas or something, just how fast you can fire it off. I think venom pistol still is a bit of a problem. I do think the throwing axe is a bit of a problem, and possibly the longbow. They don't feel overly oppressive yet because people haven't maxed out their talents, but I think towards the end of this week we're going to start seeing, you know, people are adjusting to the weapons, and they might be a tad too strong. You know, another 3-4%, you know, nerf wouldn't be bad, possibly, but I think we should wait it out for a week or two, see how they feel. Drybar has said they're working on a venom pistol nerf already, so I think they've already been tracking the data on that. But I truly believe that the throwing axe and the longbow are going to be the next two things that are on everyone's list of, you know, don't use this or you're a loser because they're too strong. But we'll see. They're fun to use for sure. I encourage everyone to try out the longbow. It really is a lot of fun to use the longbow right now. It's a very quick refire rate. You can make some really nasty clips with some blast arrow combinations with it. It's a lot of fun. But overall, you know, I'm not upset the slug has changed. The weapons feel a little bit more spammy, which, you know, kind of is a little lame. But again, they got to find that right balance between helping out console players and PC players. There is still aiming involved. It's not like you're just holding down the trigger. But yeah, I'm not upset with it. We'll see how it is in a week or so. On to the cooldowns, and this is the hot topic of the patch that everyone is very, 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 very upset about. And I rightfully so. You know, I agree with most players that this is the worst thing in the patch. The statement they gave is that the introduction of the talent system allows players to make adjustments to their abilities in powerful ways. Our goal in future patches is to ensure that abilities become more impactful instead of being more frequent. So I actually really enjoyed this statement. I like it a lot. You know, I agree that abilities shouldn't be spammed. You shouldn't be blast arrowing every second. You shouldn't be healing shouting every 4 seconds. That's not fun. It's just cheesy. However, I do think they took it to the extreme in this patch. considering they just nerfed movement abilities a couple of weeks ago and increased cooldowns. But if you look at the numbers here, you have things as high as 40 seconds on some cooldowns here. And it just feels completely unnecessary. It felt like in the last patch, movement abilities were in a perfect spot. Things were, on the high end around 24 seconds for their cooldown, like Soar and Heroic Leap. But now it really feels like you're using your abilities maybe once every other fight sometimes, depending on how fast the fights happen. Not only that, you really get punished for using an ability outside of your own class's ability, which takes away from the skillfulness of switching to another ability based on who you see in the kill feed and where you're going to be fighting. To me, there was a lot of skill in the decision making between, am I going to take my legendary dodge roll or a gray sword in this final zone? Now it seems like, well, I'm screwed if I take the gray sword because it has a 40-second cooldown. Like, why would I ever do that? It's too severe of a punishment. Again, I will say, things like Blast Arrow, Healing Shout, Shielding Aura, they all needed nerfs in terms of cooldown, but it is a bit extreme, and I'm really not enjoying the cooldown changes here. I don't know what else they're going to be adding to maybe counteract this. Drybear did say they're working on, this is the first iteration and they're going to be doing other things to make abilities feel more impactful, but I would have rather seen that all together instead of just, huge cooldown blanket nerfs. Things like the Ice Wall were nerfed to 32 seconds, and that's the last thing that ability needed. It seemed like these were just kind of lazily tossed out numbers with no real reasoning behind them. It would have been nice to see them go through each individual ability and adjust the cooldown based on that. I mean, Ice Wall is fine with a 5-second cooldown or a 10-second cooldown. It doesn't need to be 32 seconds. Some abilities have been rendered pretty much useless, like the Ice Wall. Proximity Trap feels really bad now. But yeah, not too happy with the cooldown changes. I really do hope that if we can get the feedback, to the development team enough, they will hopefully meet us in the middle or go back to the way it was with some slight nerfs to the basic abilities. But it really felt like last patch, movement abilities were in a perfect spot. They just needed to increase the cooldowns on the basic abilities a little bit. Right now, it kind of feels like you're playing Call of Duty with perks rather than a fantasy battle royale with abilities. But again, it's still playable. It's not like it's the engineer meta or overpowered Venom Pistol meta. This is something you can adapt to temporarily, hoping that they'll just listen to the community feedback and adjust this. They did remove the bonus things that come with the legendary abilities. For example, movement speed on dodge roll is gone, movement speed on blink is gone, Ice Block doesn't heal, so the power gap between purple and legendary isn't that huge anymore. Not sure how I feel about that yet. It was cool to have legendaries have special benefits, especially now that you can kind of guarantee your forge. So I think it would have been nice to keep this and then maybe remove it after testing the talent tree in combination with it. But again, with prior patches, Hi-Rez has kind of gone to the extreme with their nerfs and changes. So again, they'll probably drop it back down, meet us in the middle somewhere, I'm hoping. Quality life improvements, pretty generic. Some of the things in here are listed but haven't taken effect yet. For example, where is it? It actually might be in bug fixes. No, sniper rifle improvement. For example, they said they're removing the crosshair. I don't know if that means from the scoped sniper or from the unscoped sniper to kind of nerf the no scopes, but that's not active yet. The feedback when you shoot someone feels really good now. The hit markers are good, the sound is good, there's a little bit of blood now. Overall, the polish is really nice. They've added some new parts to the map, which are cool. No complaints here. The best thing is the improved audio clarity for positional feedback. You can definitely hear people better from around corners and houses nearby. This is one of the biggest changes that I think is really improving the gameplay, so you're not getting snuck up on as much. I will say the inventory system is a little bit different now. I don't think it's a good change. Well, there's a good change and a bad change. One, you can't see the weapon information in your inventory, how much damage a weapon does. All you have now is like a progress bar, which I don't really enjoy. But you can, instead of clicking the X, use the right click an item to drop it, so it makes it a little bit easier. But yeah, overall, good stuff. Bug fixes. This is where I was pretty disappointed. You know, in the Q&A, they said almost everything that we've been asking for is being addressed, something along those lines. So I was really expecting to see a fix for the loot bug, where people can see people looting through walls. I was excited to see blink, not rubber banding. Blink is way worse than before, by the way. And I was excited to see loot not going in the walls, but that's still happening. They said they are aware of these things. They said they're still working on them. But unfortunately, we didn't have any major bug fixes, in my opinion, in this one. You know, I guess you don't get interrupted while healing if you get shot now, which is cool. Some animation issues, but overall, it was, you know, I mean, I guess rankings are showing, which is cool. That's a big fix. It gives you kind of a reason to grind. These are showing now. But overall, a little bit disappointed with the bug fixes. But again, they said they're aware of the bugs, so they will be fixing them over time. I can't speak too intelligently to console adjustments. I've heard that aiming's a little bit better now. I can't confirm that. I've heard that you can or cannot turn off crossplay. Not sure. But overall, you know, I think the patch is a net positive. I really enjoy the mastery system. I love the forge changes. I think it's created a very good foundation for the game to build off of. We just need to be a little patient and have a little bit of trust in the developers with these cooldown nerfs and more bug fixes. You know, from what I've heard, aside from the cooldown nerfs, most people are on the same page that the patch would have been really freaking good if that didn't occur. So as long as they're listening to feedback, I'm optimistic. I'm pretty confident. I think we have a good patch in our hands, and you know, them showing that they're willing to nerf things overnight now and make adjustments and communicate a little bit more gives me some hope for the future of the game and future patches and adjustments. So with that being said, I'm really excited to dive back into the game today and do more stuff on the talent tree. We've created quite a few interesting build and loadouts already. But we're going to go back in, we're going to max level our hunter, we're going to play in a tournament today, and we'll probably do another video like this with a review later on down the line after things have kind of settled, and we'll go from there. But thank you guys for tuning in. If you have any more questions, let me know. If I missed anything, let me know. I'll be on my stream pretty much all day, every day, grinding this battle pass. Take it easy, guys. See you in the realm. Did they change the look of the health and shield bar in the new patch? Yeah. It's like animated now. What's up, Petite? How are you doing? Just like what? You don't like me anymore? Aw, what an anticlimactic ending. It's a solid game though.